You might be surprised. It's a Buddhist temple. It's just about a mile or two outside Lincoln. So yeah, it's just close to Denton, just north of Denton Road. I mean, you can ride to it, as you can see, real easily. So that was the start of the ride last summer. Ended up being 108 miles that day, down to Beatrice and back, and all over. So that was a fun day. You may recognize on the left, on the very left is Brandon Ernst. So he rode a part of the way with us that day. So anyway, well, I'll grab it. Excited to have you guys here today. Like I said, we've got a lot of stuff to share with you. We'll try to keep it as simple as we can. Agenda today, we'll talk about, we'll do the intro and then our helmets. We'll talk about the ABC Quick Check, what you should do for every ride. Ride safely, bike lanes, maintenance, handling, and then we'll get into just a brief talk there about Lincoln traffic laws so you understand those. And then we'll get on to the women's panel discussion. So, intro. By the way, Sean, Doug, anything?
Nope.
Doug and I are both what we call LCIs, League Certified Instructors. We got trained a couple years ago. The city had grant money they got from the Community Health Endowment Fund, and they got about 24 of us, I think, that are trained. And we go around all over and do this. I've done this at, we just did a church group last month. I've done plenty of schools, and we've done different things where it's not just a presentation like this, and where it's maybe an hour long. We've gone into schools. I've gone into a couple different schools and done an after-school program where we go for 6 or 8 weeks and teach kids the basics of this stuff. And we also cover bike handling, and we take them out on group rides. And throughout the 6 weeks, 8 weeks, we work them up to doing a group ride throughout the neighborhood around their school. So it's kind of a neat thing we've done. So we've done all kinds of things. I've been biking 17 years. Doug's about that long as well. Everything from commuting to racing to touring, you name it. So it's all fun. I really got started just because of the health and wellness aspect of it, which is why I started. So it's just kind of grown from there. So, quick show of hands. Who commutes to work, or even occasionally? I don't do it every day either, so who occasionally commutes? Show of hands. Some hands going up. Good. That's great. Second one, who rides for your health and well-being? Good. And that's great. Who rides places other than city trails? Some hands. Okay. And that's a great question. When you look at the bikes that we have up here, this is Doug's commuter bike that commute to work. He's decked out pretty well with his fenders and a rack to put his bag on, so that's a great bike. He's got his light and bell and all that, so that's a great commuter bike. I brought a couple of my bikes. I've raced on both of these bikes, but I also these are my daily riders. This bike is what I would do. I did the ride last year. I said 108 miles on. Was on this bike. I've done a lot of different races on this one. This bike up here is my, if you had to have one bike, that they said you could only have one bike the rest of your life, unfortunately, as much as I love this bike, that would probably be the one do-all bike. And I did clean it up. Just you can see, this bike has been on gravel roads, limestone. This morning I did 15 miles on it, just on the trails in town basically. So it really didn't go off-road, but it can. So this bike, I love to take it into Wilderness Park, which is a single track, which a lot of people typically think of just a mountain bike in there. That bike does awesome in there. There's no suspension on it. So it kind of looks like a road bike, but if you kind of get up close, you'll notice it's got knobby tires on it, and they're small, like this road bike. That bike is almost as light, so it's a great bike for all around for anything. Even yesterday morning when it was wet and dewy and outside, that's what I rode, which is why it got kind of dirty. So, but it's been on a lot of gravel roads this last weekend, so gravel roads are another great place to ride. So, talking about bikes, I just mentioned a few there. Who has a mountain bike? Okay. Who has a road bike? Yeah, Sherry, I know you guys you got road bikes. Cross bike, that's the cross bike. There, yep. Fitness bike. Fitness bike. Fitness bike might be, you might consider it your cross, or this might be considered kind of a fitness bike as well. So I know Jenny's got a Trek FX. That's a good fitness bike as well. Anybody know what a fat bike is? That's my next bike my wife doesn't want me to get, but I'm sure I need one. The fat bike basically has anywhere from about a 4-inch to 5-inch tire. It's like an oversized mountain bike. It's got a really big fat tire. It's great in sand and snow, and they're getting really popular. You've probably seen them. They look like this big monstrous bike, and anyway, so it's really kind of a neat bike. Wanted to show you that bicycling isn't just balancing. There's a little clip here I want to show you. Hope this works okay. I forgot to test this out on this one this time.
Unlike a tour leader who gets a wide open road and a police escort, when we ride on the roads, we are traffic. This means we have a right to the road just like drivers, and we have to obey the rules of the road just like drivers.
All right.
Unlike a tour leader who gets a wide open road and a police escort, when we ride on the roads, we are traffic. This means we have a right to the road just like drivers, and we have to obey the rules of the road just like drivers. So when you're on your bike, obey the law. You don't have to ride as far to the right as possible. You have to ride as far to the right as is safely possible. This means you need to take into account roadside conditions, including debris, car doors, and other obstacles. If the lane is too narrow to safely share, the law will allow you to take the entire lane. In many jurisdictions, it's perfectly legal to ride side by side with another rider, but you'll still have to stay as far to the right as is safely possible. Make sure your bike is well maintained, that you wear a helmet, that you have eyewear, and you're wearing gloves. Make sure you have front and back lights at night, and even when the light conditions are low. Always carry identification, like road ID. For more info and tips on how to keep yourself and others safe on your next ride, go to roadid.com/road rules.
That was a good short clip. There's more clips like that out there at Road ID if you want to go out and look at YouTube. Those are some great clips. I was going to mention, not that I'm plugging Road ID for any reason other than the fact that it is nice to have this peace of mind that this is what I wear on every ride. It's got my name, phone numbers, it's got my blood type, it's got that I'm allergic to penicillin, so in case I'm in an accident, first responders are looking for this, because a lot of us may have put the emergency contact number on your phone and put ICE by it. I have that in my phone, I know. ICE stands for in case of emergency. But guess what? My phone's locked. I'm not going to be able to get to my phone and find out who to call. So this they will. So good thing to have. They're not really that expensive. So if you go out there to the roadid.com website, check it out. While I'm there thinking about this, I was going to mention they have other stuff out there you might find useful. These I love. We talk about how you commute to work. This is something I use a lot. I wear these every morning even because the added reflection and movement of your legs, traffic will see these. These are really bright, as you can tell. These are from Road ID, so I picked these up. They're really cheap as well. So you might find something like this in the bike store, but these I really like. So check out Road ID.
All right. My turn. It's always good to, while you're riding, to practice some skills. One of the big skills that you need to kind of learn is to be able to look over your shoulder without, turning into traffic or anything. Trying to keep a straight line and look over your shoulder. That comes in handy a lot of times when you need to turn left and you need to see what's going on, or you're on the trails and you have to pass somebody on the left, you've got to know if there's somebody coming up real fast behind you or whatever's going on. So that's a skill you just need to kind of work on and practice and give it a try every once in a while as you're driving down. Just try and keep a straight line and look over your shoulder so you know what's going on behind you. Wearing a helmet correctly is very important. They don't really do a lot of good if you don't wear them right. And you don't want to, have it tip too far back. This one really doesn't allow you to do that much, but you don't want it too far back because really then you're going to hit your head. You don't want it too far forward because then it's not going to be stable. You want to have your straps so that they come to a V right at the bottom of your ear. That gives you the best stability of a helmet. So they're all adjustable. Just play with your these little brackets or whatever and get that so that V's right at your head. And you typically want about 2 fingers on your forehead here from where it needs to sit above your eyebrows. So that gives you the best stability, the best protection in case of an accident. So start by making sure your helmet's correct. We'll talk about the ABC Quick Check here in a second. As the video said, ride on the right, but you don't need to ride in the gutter. Do not ride in the gutter. Right now there's all kinds of gravel and loose dirt and everything there. You just need to be as far right as practical. So you don't want to cut in front of a parked car and then ride real far to the right and then pull back out. And there's, cars are not going to see you if you're doing that. So you want to kind of keep a pretty straight trail as you're going down the road so that you don't, so that you're visible and predictable. Talk a little bit about that. Scanning for traffic, signal lane changes and turns. I think everybody kind of knows that from childhood days. You can either do this for a right turn, or you can actually use your right arm and stick that out if you're going to turn right. Left turns here, put your hand down. Lots of times if I'm going down a street and I want to keep going, but there's a right-hand turn lane, I want to stay in the lane that's going straight. Okay, so lots of times I'll just point that that's the direction I'm going, so somebody will know if they're coming up and they want to get in that right turn lane. I just let them know. Do whatever you can to be safe. So let people know where you're going and where you're headed, and try and make eye contact with the drivers so that they know. You can kind of see if they've seen you or not. Those are real important things. Take a water bottle if you can, and maybe a snack if you're going on a long bike ride. So that's important. Talk a little bit about wearing the helmet and why that's important. Make sure it fits snug and proper. We'll talk a little bit real quick about the ABC Bike Check. It's going to be a nice weekend. Might be where you're pulling your bike out for the first time in a long time, maybe. Tires will go flat just sitting in the garage. My tires go flat. Well, they go down daily. Really, that doesn't hold air. So you want to get a floor pump. You want to make sure your bike tire is the right pressure for the type of tire it is. Road bikes like that go to up 100 pounds per square inch. So mountain bikes are only about 35 pounds. So you want to make sure you've got your tires properly inflated. It gets real dangerous if they're not. Kind of when you're making turns and stuff, they're going to give you a problem when you're making a turn. Also, if they're not at the right pressure, if you hit a pothole or whatever, it can compress enough to cause a flat tire. So you definitely want to get a floor pump. They're not that expensive, and keep your tires properly inflated. B is for brakes. You're going to want to check that before you head down the driveway as well. If you've got a bike that's been sitting in the garage in the heat, lots of times these rubber bike brake pads are going to get hard and crusty. You're going to want to make sure that that you're getting a good contact with that. They're pretty easy. There's just a little Allen wrench. You can always take the brake pad out of here and just rough it up with an emery board or a little bit of sandpaper, if it looks like it's kind of glazed over, so that gets a nice, good new finish on it.
How often would you have to replace brakes?
Not very often. They're pretty hard rubber, and if you're not putting, thousands of miles on a bike in a year, you'll have to watch, you'll have to gauge. I think you can always take them off and take a look, or stop in your bike shop if you've got, need a tune-up or whatever, and have them look at your brakes and make sure they're okay. But, if you're putting a couple hundred miles on a year, you should be fine. Okay, so that's B is for brakes. C is for chain, cassette, and crank. This is the crank. Hopefully, it's a bike that's got good components to it that you don't have to worry about anything falling off. But you do want to make sure that your chain it gets lubricated and isn't all rusty and crusty and can flow really well through the gears. You don't want to use like a WD-40 or a heavy kind of an oil on your chain. You can get some oils and lubricants that are specific to bikes. You want to keep it pretty dry. Most people, they lubricate the chain and then they wipe off all the excess with a rag, because then it just sand sticks to it and dirt sticks to it, and it just makes everything dirty and messy and nasty. So most people, they'll lubricate the chain and then they'll wipe it down. Really what you want, the lubrication to get down into the gear, into the little gears and things in there, and not just be coated on there. So keep your chain in good shape. This is the crank. This is the cassette, which is you want to make sure it kind of stays clean. You can get into that with some degreaser sometimes and just an old toothbrush or whatever, and get the grunge and crud out of there so it doesn't wear on your chain. So that's the C. Quick check. The quick part is the quick release. Most bikes have these now. It's a way to get your tire or your wheel off real easy. If you get a flat, it's this little lever here that pops off, and then you have to unscrew it a little bit, and then you undo your brake here. It's kind of a part-way release of the brake, and then you can get your wheel off and get the flat tire fixed. We're not going to get into fixing flats. We may do a special session on that. But most bikes now have these quick releases. You want to make sure they're on and tight before you head down the driveway. If you don't have a quick release like this, then the only way to get your wheel off is with a couple of wrenches, and that's not very convenient if you're out on the trail and you get a flat. So if you don't have quick releases, you can get a new wheel and get a new wheel put on your bike that doesn't allow you to use those. As far as the quick check goes, you just want to give your bike a little bit of a bounce and see if it sounds like there's anything loose, or you can feel anything. If it feels like it's going to give way, you want to make sure everything's tight so that your handlebars aren't slipping and sliding around. You want to make sure your seat post is tight here so your seat's not spinning or going up or down. So just give it a good check before you head out, and then periodically check it as you go. All right, any questions on that? All right, do that.
Got a short video to show you. It's just 8 minutes long. Celine Yeager, she's known as the Fit Chick. She does a great job, and she truly is a phenomenal athlete. I looked up last year. She did the Dirty Kansas, which is a 200-mile gravel road race in Kansas. And it's starting to attract a lot of big-name people, and she's one of them. She went there, and she ended up in the top 30, finishing that race, which was just pretty cool. So.
more people are discovering the benefits of bicycling. It's healthy, relaxing, and fun. It's great exercise and something everyone can enjoy. Millions of Americans are saving money, reducing pollution, and easing congestion every day by simply riding to work, to the store, or to visit friends and family. Whether you are riding for the first time since childhood or you ride often, following a few simple pointers can make your ride safe and enjoyable.
Hi, I'm Celine Yeager. You know that old saying, you never forget how to ride a bike? Well, it turns out that's only partly true. Sure, you can get on your bike and pedal, but do you really know how to drive your bike in today's traffic? Yes, I said drive your bicycle. You see, riding a bicycle is very similar to driving a car. The same rules of the road apply to both. In many states, bicycles are considered vehicles, so bicyclists have the same responsibilities and rights as motorists. Here are some tips for safe riding. First, let's make sure you have a bike that fits you properly.
Bikes these days come in a wide variety of styles and prices. Talk with the staff of your local bike shop about the kind of riding you'll do and choose the right bike for you. Hybrid and comfort bikes are great for everyday riding around town. Sport, touring, and racing bikes are better for longer rides. If you are riding off-road, head for the mountain bike section of the store for bikes with fatter tires and gearing better suited to unpaved trails.
Getting a bike that fits makes it easier and safer to handle and much more enjoyable to ride. Make sure there's an inch or two between you and the top tube on a road bike. And on a mountain bike, you want the clearance to be more like 5 inches to make it easier and safer to get off the bike on rough terrain. Adjust your seat height so there's a slight bend in your knee when your foot is on the pedal in the downmost position.
There are 3 pieces of equipment that you will need to stay safe. First, a bicycle helmet. You need to wear a bicycle helmet regardless of your skill level or reasons for riding. It is the single most important piece of safety equipment you can use. It significantly reduces your chance of head injury if you crash. Be safe and be a role model for other bicyclists. Wear a properly fitted helmet each time you ride. A properly fitted helmet should be comfortably snug. It shouldn't shake, and it should sit on your forehead about 2 fingers width between the brim and your brows. Your helmet should sit level on your head. And then make sure that the sliders meet in a V under your earlobes. Chin straps should be snug under your chin, with room to breathe, of course. Second, if you are riding at night or in low light conditions, you need lights and reflectors. Every state requires bicyclists to have a white front light and a red light or reflector on the back of their bike. Third, you want to be seen and recognized by motorists at any time of day or night, so wear bright clothing with reflective tape or markings.
And now one more thing before you set off. You don't want your bike to fail you. So get in the habit of doing the ABC Quick Check before you ride.
A is for air. Check that your tires are properly inflated. They should be pumped up to the inflation rating printed on the tire. Many bicycle pumps come with a pressure gauge, so you can make sure they're properly inflated. Low pressure tires can easily puncture. B is for brakes. Check that your brakes are working. Your brake lever shouldn't come closer than a thumb's width to the handlebar. Your wheels should spin freely when the brakes are off. C is for the cranks, chain, and cassette. Grab both crank arms like this and wiggle them to make sure they aren't loose. Spin the pedals and make sure the chain runs smoothly through the gears. Quick means making sure your wheels are on tight if you have quick release wheels. The wheels should be snug in the dropouts and the quick release lever fastened tight. Finally, check to make sure nothing else is loose on your bike. If there's anything you can't fix, take your bike to your local bike shop and get a professional to help you.
Now we're ready to ride. Remember, bicyclists have the same responsibilities and rights as motor vehicle operators, so we follow the same rules of the road. Here are some important rules to remember.
Ride in the same direction as traffic. Bicyclists riding the wrong way can cause a crash for 2 reasons. Turning motorists, in particular, are not looking for you there, and you can't see and follow the traffic signs or signals if you're heading the wrong way. Obey all traffic signs, signals, and road markings. This means stopping at stop signs and red lights, and yielding to crossing pedestrians. It also means riding in turn lanes when you turn, and straight lanes if you're going straight. Ride defensively. Look before riding out of driveways. Always look for turning vehicles and pedestrians in your path. Look behind you before changing lanes.
Know the law. Laws differ in each state or jurisdiction. In some areas, it's illegal to ride your bicycle on the sidewalk. If you must ride on the sidewalk, Look for turning or crossing vehicles at driveways and intersections. Every community has different rules and regulations for driving a bicycle. Know those that apply to you, obey them, and set a good example for others.
Avoid road hazards. Carefully ride around drain grates, gravel, glass, and debris. Be predictable. Help motorists know exactly what you plan to do. Signal, make eye contact if you can, and ride without swerving. Signaling and checking behind you while riding straight takes practice. So working on these skills in a vacant lot is a smart idea. Stay to the right and pass on the left. This applies to the road and riding on a shared use path or trail. On a path, give an audible signal and always yield to pedestrians and people on horseback. When trails cross roadways, use caution and obey any traffic signs and signals.
Bicycling is fun, but it requires all your concentration. It requires using a helmet, lights, and bright colored clothing, and a bicycle in good repair that's properly fit to you. It requires you follow the traffic principles and be prepared to avoid hazards. This film was produced by the League of American Bicyclists with support of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. I'm Celine Yeager. Ride safe.
Okay, so they covered a lot. So we're gonna, with that, we're gonna skip past some of this. Since we're good close on time. They showed a lot of good tips, things we've already suggested to you as well. So I guess at this time, let's go ahead and have those that are gonna sit up on our panel and help answer some of these questions come on up. While they're coming up, you know, we did bring some other stuff that you want to look at when we're done. I did bring, I got some Nebraska maps. The city of Lincoln right now is printing new maps, so they didn't have any, but this is a state of Nebraska bicycle map that you can grab if you want one. Really nice map. It does have the Lincoln trails in it, so if you're curious, you want to grab one of these. Also, like I said, brought some different things to show you how to survive riding any time of year. Again, this is a bright color jacket that's really I've really enjoyed. I just had it about a year now, so I really enjoyed it. But between this and all the other gear, you can be really visible at this kind of stuff. So it's nice to have this. So the cool thing about this jacket too is, besides being very bright and visible, if I get too hot with this one on, I can take it off and just have a vest. So it basically comes down and turns into a vest. And then it's got magnets in it that puts it back together. So it's kind of a neat jacket. So having the right gear does help. If that's what motivates you to get out and go for a ride, by all means, treat yourself. I treated myself this year to this cold weather is tough, so I went out and picked up about a month or two ago these to help me ride in this cold weather. So Joyride was having a sale on these, so I picked these up. No different than you guys go spend at the mall on shoes, right? So I like my shoes too, but just a certain time. So anyway, there's a gear up here. If you want to look at stuff, make it easier. If you want to understand how to ride safely, and if you have questions when we're done, by all means, let us know. But with that, let's start with these guys. You guys, who has questions? I guess let's start off with intros. Let's go down. Sorry, let's go down the row. Introduce yourself. And what do you want to say? What kind of bike do you ride? How often you ride?
I'm Nell Miller. I work at Key Park in retail and operations. I have a mountain bike that I've had for about a year. I'm basically a recreational rider, so I just ride on the trails, sometimes gravel trails, otherwise usually just the trails around town. Have a little fun.
I'm Laura Burr. I work in deposit services, third floor of this building. I'm also a recreational rider. I have a hybrid bike and trails, some in-town pavement, stuff like that. So.
I'm Mary Gross. I work in food services, and I have a track mountain bike, and my primary ride is for fitness and some stress relief. But and I hit a lot of flying trails. I like being out in the woods and I really enjoy that. I do some in city during the winter time because of snow.
I'm Jan Schiefen, and I'm in the trust department, and I have a road bike, CrossFit bike, and a mountain bike. I don't ride anymore. But I can go either way. I like it recreational, but I have also done like Tour de Nebraska, which is a 5-day event. And we ride for some days 60 miles, some days 40. So, and I enjoy it.
Terry Behrens, I'm from the Personal Trust Department, and I have a road bike, a specialized road bike. And I've only been riding a year. I started 10 years ago, I rode in a 60-mile ride, but then I quit. That was enough. And then a year ago, Jan told me I needed a bike, so I've been riding with Jan for about a year.
My name is Nicole. I work at the Nebraska Bookstore. I primarily use my bike as a commuting. I work downtown and live downtown, so it's just like an hour and a half to work. So I try and ride my bike for that. Mostly seasonally when it's nice.
Janae Gagner Wilcox, and I'm in wholesale loan operations at 3600. I have an electric cruiser. That is my awesome bike, and I love it. And I do it recreational, or sometimes I commute to work. But yes, I'm such a comfort rider.
Very good. All right. Now that we're about, what, 3 weeks into doing the bike challenge, the Tour de France challenge. That's kind of why we wanted to have this and take the opportunity to find out what challenges or struggles or questions you have that you've encountered now that you've maybe dusted off your bike and maybe started riding a little bit. Jenna, we have a chair up here for you.
Don't put me on film.
Jenna rides too. We just got done with intro, so you can introduce yourself then.
I'm Jenna Clausen. I work in human resources.
And you ride?
I do. I ride on weekends, and in the summer I try to ride also 2 nights a week.
I run into her every once in a while on trail. I'll see, but so yes. So with the challenge that we've got going on right now, we thought we'd give a great opportunity for you guys to ask questions, things you're struggling with or curious about or would like to know more about. Maybe you're not riding yet at all and you want to ride. Maybe you haven't taken advantage of the employee fitness loan to go buy a bike, which if you only spend $500, it's only like $10 a paycheck. You'd never notice that. So anyway, just a plug for that. Questions you guys have?
I have a hybrid bike. I've been riding for a couple of years now, but I think I'm ready to. My bike seems heavy at times. You know, I feel like I could go longer if my bike was lighter, but I don't want to go like super, you know, the opposite of what I have. Even though it's kind of a mid-range. You know, moved up. Like mine's kind of a comfort rider, but yet it's the tires and in between a mountain and those skinny ones. Is there any other in between?
No, you could like Jenny Russ has a Trek FX series bike, and it's got a straight handlebar.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
It's got tires that are probably bigger, probably closer to what I have on that cross bike, maybe just a little bit bigger. So you would rolling resistance would be less. You would go faster. It'd probably be a lighter bike than what you have today. So that would
bike
be.
is about $600. So I mean, if I didn't spend, you can spend a lot more.
Yeah.
That's about the average price. So I would be spending more to get a lighter bike.
You would be. Just to give you an idea, if you want a lighter bike, you get that road bike right there is tips the scales right now. I just rebuilt it this year. It's at 18 pounds. Now, basically from there, and I don't want to tell you what it costs, but that cross bike, which I will tell you, I bought that 2 years ago, it retails for $1,800. I paid a little less than that. That bike only weighs 19 pounds. So that's a really, for the money compared to what that road bike costs, for the money, that's a light, fast bike. And I can easily switch out, those are not the original tires. I've gone through many sets of tires already. you can easily put road bike tires on that cross bike, no problem. I mean, so you could play with your tires. You can easily switch tires. I did that. I've got a touring bike that's 28 pounds, and it's had bigger tires on it. And I put skinnier tires on it that dropped weight, less than my rolling resistance, and my average speed, because I've tracked it, went up a mile and a half per, so it makes a difference.
Did any of you buy a women's specific bike? Because they have those now.
Right.
A lot of the bike manufacturers are kind of catering to women to get them on the road, so they've played with the geometry of the bike to make them so your reach isn't so far and it sits down, it's a little more comfortable, and so there's WSD or women's specific designs now. So if you're interested in that and you want to get a new bike and you go to the bike shop, they can point you in that direction. But they've done a lot of work in that regard.
Doug, on that note, when I got my road bike, I was just starting to do the road on the highway and I was all about the look of the bike, and I knew which one I wanted, but it was a last year's model. And so I came back to Lincoln and I found it and I bought it, and it really it's a man's bike, and they've tried everything to get it to fit me better. And when I went to the bike shop one day, I did try a women's bike. Makes a big difference in my mind. A lot more comfortable. Mine is not, but like I said, I did more about the look of the bike, which one I wanted, and now I regret that. But so I would advise looking at a woman's versus a man, or at least try it.
The component makers have also followed suit. So like the shifters on these bikes, they have women's specific. So when you get a women's specific bike, the shifters have a shorter reach. So if you're into drops, you're down to the drops, you can reach and grab those shifters easier. So they are trying to design everything in mind. So it does give you an advantage if you do go get a women's specific bike. So keep that in mind.
I'm curious what you guys do for safety. Do you ride? I heard you guys ride together, but do you ride by yourself and your husband want to shoot you?
I ride by myself only if I'm on the trails or kind of close to home. I live on the Billy Wolf Trail, so if I'm by myself and I worry something might happen, I stay pretty close to home, and that way I can get back if I need to, because I don't have a lot of room for equipment on my bike. Otherwise, I ride with a group, sometimes of 5 to 10 people, and we'll go further around town, or we'll go to other little cities and ride that kind of way. So I try to stay in a group, and that way somebody always goes prepared or has stuff in case we have flats or that kind of thing.
I ride by myself all the time, and I ride the Jamaican Trail, and I worry about it a little bit. I've never run into any problem. I think there was an incident about 3 years ago where a woman was bothered by someone, but otherwise I've never had any issues. I don't do music while I'm riding because I want to be aware. So I really kind of pay attention, especially when there's no one on the trail. So.
I ride by myself too, and I take the trails, and I usually always do it in the daylight. The only time I ever got afraid was I try to ride every Saturday and Sunday, and when it was sub-zero, I was riding and I got a little afraid. I got a little too cold, and so I almost went up to house and said, "Could I just warm up?" But I got myself together and got home. But I don't ever put the earplugs on because I know too many people that they don't hear, they don't catch things, and I think that's dangerous.
Or at least have one.
Yeah.
Wear them,
Yeah.
at least have one out of your ear. So if somebody
I
is
know
taller,
there's times I've tried to pass someone and they've got the earphones on, and I'll say to your left, and I know they didn't hear me. And then they're startled when you come around, and so that's my preference, not to like the sound of the wind.
I want to talk a little bit about the bike group. When I first started here, I joined the bike group, And these guys are fabulous. They taught me how to ride my bike. I wasn't riding correctly. And between you and Alan Fossler, they showed me how to ride. But I got a little intimidated because I was like the witch of the West, you know, behind them all the time. And they were so kind to, you know, hang on to me. But it was a great experience. And I would, if you could let some amateurs like me maybe go half the distance that you're going, I would do it again.
Half the speed, too.
I mean, they babysat that summer. I mean, they're like, oh my God, here comes Jenna. Told me to get an up-to-date helmet. I had never had that 1970s, and Doug's like, oh, Jenna. It was like this bubble. It's like, oh, Jenna, I gotta go get a new one. So I got a new one. But it's a great situation, and they waited for me at the bar when we rode to Eagle. They didn't think I'd make it. And so they're drinking, and I walk in, I'm here, and they're like, oh my God, she made it. My old pink bike.
We've done over the years the Union Bank UBT Summer Cycling Series, which has been, gosh, what, like once a month. We've done a Saturday, Sunday ride. I think we've done a Tuesday night ride on purpose to ride out to Eagle during for the Nacho ride. If you've ever heard of that, it's kind of fun. And that's what we've done a lot of. And so, and Nell and her group from the Waverly Bike Club has joined us as well. We've done some rides and cleared some trees off trails. And I got pictures of that. But yeah, we haven't talked about when we'll start that up this summer, but that's a great opportunity.
There's an email group for UBT cycling, and just if you just email Rachel if you want to get added to the cycling email group, then we post, send out emails about when we're going to get together for a little group ride. We try and make it very inclusive for all ability levels. And like Jenny Wolf brought her daughter once and rode with us for a while, and then when they got tired, they just turned around and went back, and we just kept going. So it's just something it's kind of fun to get out in a group. You learn some things. If you've got a mechanical issue, there are people there to help you, things like that. So group rides, Nell rides with the group from Waverly, so it's fun.
Great question, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. With gears, what's the proper times to use the different gears and that?
Well, you want to keep a high cadence, and they'll tell you the cadence should be between 75 RPMs to like 95 to keep spinning so you don't strain your knees and things too much. And as you can see by these bikes, they've got a lot of gears, and that can be somewhat intimidating. You're going to start off obviously in an easier gear and then work your way up. And then you kind of, if you see a hill coming, make sure that you're downshifting, and sometimes that might mean you need to shift either the front chain rings or the rear, depending on where you're at. Now, you may have anywhere from 7 to 11 nowadays. 11's the most right now. I just rebuilt that road bike and made it a 10-speed, so I technically, well, let's just say it's got 20 gears on it. And so when you're in the middle of that, I could pretty much stay in the middle of that rear cassette, either in the front, chain ring the big one, or the smaller one up front. But if you get too much of an angle in that chain, you're going to have issues. That's when you're going to be downshifting. So if you're going to really have to get into an easier gear, you might want to drop the front chain ring down instead of the rear if you get a certain point. But keeping the RPMs up so you don't hurt your knees is kind of the thing.
Yeah, I think the misconception is you're going to go up the hill the same speed, you're going to try and maintain the same speed. That's not necessarily right. You want to be pedaling about the same speed, but if you shift down in your gears, you're going to go up the hill really slow. I mean, you're just going to crawl up the hill, but you're still pedaling pretty fast, but it's easy. And that's what you want to do. You want to keep your gears to where you're pedaling about the same speed all the time, whether it's up a hill or down the hill. And it doesn't matter what speed you're going, really. If you go up the hill really slow, then you go up the hill really slow, but you're not hurting your knees that way.
And you may need to stand up to keep that in mind. That's where you've done some bike handling skills. You know how to handle your bike. You're comfortable standing up. There's a spot like this morning I ride on the trail where I know when I turn this corner, going up, I got to go up this steep hill, and I'm on that bike, and I'm ready. I shift my front chain ring from my big chain ring to my smaller one. As soon as I come out of the tunnel, it's right there on Pine Lake, 90, you probably know you're close. the trail comes out of the tunnel underneath Pine Lake and goes whoop straight up, and it's steep. And even for me, and I downshift that front chainring. That's my first thing I do. And then I may stand up to get up that because it's steep. Holmes Lake, anybody ridden the trail by Holmes Lake? That's a steep incline. That's another one too. I mean, try to keep your momentum the best you can, but odds are you're going to end up, maybe, you may not have enough gears in the back. You may have to shift that front chainring down to get up that, especially the very last 20 feet, it's steep. So, good question. Anybody else have tips on what you do for how you shift or when you shift? Or
Mine's on 2. The front is on 2 almost all the time. I rarely use the 1. And then when I come to a hill, downhill, it's 3. So, and then I just, the back one, I just shift just according to what feels comfortable.
so when she's talking 2, she's got a triple chainring, so she's got 3 up front. She's leaving it in 2 most of the time. If you're going downhill fast, you may jump up to the big chainring. That's what she's talking about. Good.
So I do cycling classes at the gym. I don't really ride. I have a bike, but I don't ride it. And I strap in. But there's like clip in or strap. Like when do you do that? When do you not do that?
Well,
or what does it even mean really, the clip on?
So if I'm riding that cross bike like I did this morning, I wore these. And you can see the cleat on the bottom. And these are called SPD, these clip in. And the road bike there has a different style. This is a Look style, it's a bigger cleat. And then I've got shoe covers to keep my toes warm. Because these road shoes are very ventilated because your feet get hot in the summer. So I can pull these covers off. But you clip in because with these 2 different systems. And the reason you do that is because you'll have more power over the pedal axle. And it keeps the ball of your foot centered in the right spot. So, and there's a little bit of float, so you don't hurt your knees. So these float around. There's about 3-4 degrees of float. But you are way more efficient. Jan's got a story to tell you about this, but clipping in is great. And I mean, I could never go back. I could not even if I really want to jump on a bike without having my feet clipped in. As odd as that may sound.
How do you stop and put your foot down?
Well, you have to be. You want to talk about that, Jan, a little bit? And we all go through this.
What was the question?
How do you stop and put your foot down?
Oh, you don't. You fall over 3 or 4 times before you catch on. It is, and I practiced on grass everywhere. And I thought I had it down. And sure enough, and they told me at the bike shop, you will fall. Everybody does, because you're either focusing on something else, or you're talking, or just you come to a sudden stop, you know, that you're not expecting, and you can't unclip fast enough.
You can unclip without using your hands?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You just twist.
You just twist it.
Your foot you just spin your foot and it clips right out. Both of these.
Yeah.
You just spin your foot flat and it comes right out.
And they're adjustable as far as the tension is on those, so you can make them to where you can pop it out pretty easy versus having them really tight if you're racing or whatever. But the advantage is if you're just on a flat pedal, you have to pretty much just step down on it. That's the only thing you can do is step down on it, and you kind of slide. Sometimes you might slide off a pedal. This prevents that from happening. Plus, your foot, you can push going over the top. You can push with your foot, and you can pull down with your foot the whole way. So you really have a lot more power because your foot's stuck to that pedal, so you can do a lot better.
You don't realize how much you're not using your legs if you're not clipped in and pulling up on that upstroke.
So it's more quad, isn't it?
Yes, it's amazing.
It's supposed to be right here, that we're supposed to be getting the use out of right here.
Yeah. So it's amazing how much faster you'll go when you discover that. And I discovered it one time too. I'm like, I'm pedaling, push, but when you're pulling up on that other leg, wow, that's where the power comes from in the speed. And so it makes a huge difference. So.
And you guys use these?
I do not.
I will not clip in. I will not wear spandex.
I will not. I will wear spandex because I can't stand
Doug's got toe cages. If you don't want to, you can use these toe cages. You can see I can slide my foot in right there. That's a toe cage. Now, I'm not sure, I used to use, this is how I started. I went from flat pedals up to those, which those you have to pull your foot all the way out and down, okay? I feel like that's more dangerous than these. Because I can spin my foot, get unclipped in a second, and I'm good.
But how many times did you fall?
I did fall
with
when
the
I
clip?
first got these, I did fall.
How many?
It's a long time ago, but it does hurt. And you do get trapped sometimes, and you do get embarrassed because you're at a stoplight, and there's all these cars, you're like, people saw you. I've done it, 70 at the Pioneers, I fell. There's a hill, there's a stoplight, and it's a, yeah.
Fred's best advice was, if you're coming up to an intersection and you don't know if you can go through, unclip, just unclip because you can put it right back in, but at least you've got 1 foot free, so that if you do have to hit the brakes real quick because there is cross traffic or whatever, you got a foot free to. So, I mean, they're easy to put back in. You might as well just pop it out and have it ready in case you need to.
Good question.
You know, I think if you're just starting the pedal, I have one where one side of the pedal I don't have to clip in, and the other side I do clip in. And I like that because I clip, especially if I'm doing highway. But if I'm just recreational on the trail, a lot of stop and go, then I flip it over on the other side and you can still, even though my shoes have the clip, you can still use the pedal that way too. And I like.
Without clipping in?
What was that?
Like, it's just on there without
Yes.
clipping?
Yeah, they make dual-sided pedals where it's just flat on one side and a clip on the other. I've got some adapters that you can even clip in to make one side of the pedal. Like any of my pedals now that are dual-sided, I can have just a regular, so I can wear these dress shoes and ride. So yeah, you can easily do that. And they make sandals. I don't have them, but I almost bought them one time. But they make sandals that fit these, so you can walk around pretty normal with these on. These you cannot. These are not fun to walk into.